So this seems pretty obvious to me, but I feel like if this Warriors season keeps going the way it is, then Steph Curry is going to have some people coming at him pretty hard, mainly on Twitter, but that's where a lot of the conversation is nowadays. I'm going to throw some math at you, and then we'll get to the basketball stuff. Without Steph Curry, the Warriors are 1-7. With him, they're 22-20. And when he's in the game, they have a net rating of about 2. And when he's not in the game, their net rating for the season is like -5. It's even worse if you do it in the last like 15 games or whatever. The point being is, when Steph is in the game, the Warriors are a solid NBA team. When he's not playing or he's just simply on the bench, they're pretty much the worst team in the NBA. With respect to the Rockets and the T-Wolves and the Pistons and whoever else. And there was a conversation earlier in the season of how much should Kerr have Steph moving off the ball and how much of it should be more simple, ISO, pick and roll, that sort of thing. He's done more of it as the season has gone along, and I kind of almost don't even want to talk about Steph that much in this video because he's basically just being what he's always been. He's one of the best players ever. And I think this is pretty obvious as well, but I'll just say it anyway because I sometimes see this as a thing with Steph. His all-around game is really strong. 6 rebounds, 6 assists. His defense has even been a little better this year because he doesn't foul as much. And I think a lot of that is he's a little more disciplined to not just reach at guys randomly as a last-ditch effort sort of thing in a possession. So he's been great. As far as the Warriors overall, not so much. I mean, I mentioned that Steph's fouling has been good this season. Can't say the same thing for the team overall. They find a way to just pick up fouls in the worst possible situations. And it'll be times where like a guy's just taking a turnaround jump shot or the guy's pulling up from 15 feet, like shots that you'll take. And then they're just finding ways to foul people. And probably not a coincidence, they're giving up the most amount of free throws in the league. It's kind of wild that they still manage to be like 9th in defensive rating off of that. I think another thing is the second units because, well, it's pretty obvious. If they're bad without Steph, why are they bad without Steph? I think some of it is there's a conversation between like how much motion offense should they run. You know, these guys smart enough to do it. Draymond certainly is. But when you're asking Damian Lee and Jordan Poole and Kelly Oubre and all these guys to make that stuff happen, it's a little tougher, you know, just to make the reads, the cuts, and the making the perfect pass in the 1 second that you have and all that. And then the other conversation is, well, do you have Wiggins run the second unit? Do you have Oubre do it? Do you put those guys, mainly Wiggins, in more pick and roll, just allow them to get downhill, and that can be the way to get some of these second unit offenses going? And it just hasn't worked out. I think they could use a backup point guard this offseason. They tried Brad Wanamaker. Didn't go so well. They've got Nico Mannion, who, according to draft people, aka not me, he's a good passer. Is he the answer? I don't know. He finally started getting minutes about a month ago at this point, so we'll see if Kerr wants to stick to him. He got a DNP in his last one. They've also got Mike Mulder, who is an NBA player. I mean, you remember the days when Livingston and Iguodala were coming in on the second units, and I mean, those guys were really, really good passers, and they could control the game and all that stuff. It's a bit different now, and this is not James Wiseman's fault. I mean, the Warriors picked him, and I don't want this to turn into like a Wiseman scapegoat thing, but if they would have drafted LaMelo, I'm just saying, the passing definitely wouldn't be a problem. And sure, there would have been a conversation about does he start, does he come off the bench, how many possessions does he get, all that nice stuff. But they could use him. There's no doubt about that. Granted, he's injured right now, but you know what I mean. There was also that rumor that they liked Denny. Perhaps they could have traded down and gone for him. They could have traded down and went with Halliburton, but you could say that about basically anybody who's selected in the top 10 besides the Hornets, so that one's okay. Now, to talk about Wiseman specifically, I mean, it's kind of an awkward scenario because he's clearly not good enough right now to be a big winning player. I mean, his defensive instincts, not really there. And that was kind of the thing with him coming in. You know, he's not going to recognize the right rotation all the time, and he's going to bite on pump fakes, and he's going to get pushed out of the way a little bit because he's a little thin. And I mean, a lot of these things are pretty normal big guy things. It's just, or normal big guy rookie things. It's just Steph Curry is 32. So it's like, do they want to do this waiting game with Wiseman, or do they want to try to get something right now? Honestly, I would look to get something right now. And that's not to say Wiseman's not going to be good. It's just like, how many more years do you have of Steph Curry at this level? It's probably quite a few because guys are doing a great job of aging nowadays, but it's like you want to maximize it for the moment. I mean, Klay's coming back next season, I hope, at the start of the season, and we'll hope that he's still the same guy. And if all that's ready to go, but you got Wiseman who is not aggressive enough in the post, or just isn't good enough on defense, or he's dropping passes, or he's missing layups. He's good at dunks, but when it comes to non-dunks, he's not as good. Then they're going to have to ask themselves, are we willing to wait while Steph Curry gets older? Now, even if they decided they did want to move Wiseman, his contract makes it tough to get somebody really good because he makes about $9 million. Now, it's a little easier to do this in the offseason because teams oftentimes have actual cap space. But still, it's tough. I mean, if you want to trade for some dude who's making at least $20 million, you put Kevon Looney in there, you put Kent Bazemore, but you're still kind of limited with how much money you can really put into a deal. Should be said that if they end up getting the T-Wolves pick, then that's going to help their chances of making a move. If the Wolves finish with the worst record in the league, the Warriors still have about a 50% chance of getting the pick. And they could also use their own pick to make a trade as well. So we'll see. If I take a quick scan around the league, someone the Warriors could really use, I mean, Jeremy Grant would be great for them. Would the Pistons be willing to move him for James Wiseman plus the 4th pick? Is that an oversell on Jeremy Grant? I mean, he just averaged like 20-something points a game this year. I don't know. That sort of a thing. Maybe not that specifically, but you get it. Now, as far as the rest of this season is concerned, I think Golden State, they've definitely still got a shot to at least get into the play-in tournament. I mean, they're the 10th seed right now, so they'd have to win, 2 games, 3 games, whatever it is, I don't remember. And when you've got Steph Curry, you got a shot. Now, granted, they get into the playoffs, they're probably just going to lose. They will lose. Steph will go off every game, and they'll lose in 5 to Phoenix or the Jazz or whoever it may be. We'll see what they want to do. But, again, just because I know this is going to be a thing. I've already seen it. There was one tweet where it was like, oh yeah, Steph Curry's gravity is really helping him win this season. It's like, well, if you looked at some freaking numbers, you'd realize that Steph Curry is doing basically all he can do to drag what would be a G League team without him to some form of respectability. Okay, again, 1-7 without him, -1 million when he's on the bench. I mean, he literally can't do anything about that. I also would like to point out that the Warriors are expensive as hell. Safe to say they're not going to re-sign Kelly Oubre. He's already done this I don't want to come off the bench thing, and they're deep into the luxury tax, so I really don't think he's coming back. It's a pretty awkward position to be in. I mean, Wiggins has been good this season, so it seems like they hit on that one. His efficiency is way higher, all that nice stuff. And just looking down their salary sheet, if it's not going to be a Wiseman move, then you're looking at like Draymond. And I don't think anybody wants Draymond's contract. So that's it, man. Shout out to Kevon Looney and Jordan Poole. And that's it.